Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to speak with me.
Of course, my pleasure.
Congratulations on your film.
Thank you.
For those of you not yet seen it, how would you describe Köln 75?
It's a punk rock story about a woman who produced the greatest jazz performance in history.
And how did you find out about Vera Brandes? Because the story is not that well known. Obviously, your film works to change that, but how did you find out about her?
I read a small story about it in the newspaper, and I said, oh my God, what a chance to tell a music story that doesn't follow the traditional grid of music stories, which is, we celebrate the artist on stage, we see them being discovered, the star is born, they start their journey, they get famous, then there's some kind of dip, they get addicted to drugs or something like that, and then there's like a big comeback at the end with a big concert. And, we see this movie replayed again and again and again, just with a different score, different artist. And here was a story not about the artist, but about the producer, the person behind the scenes. And we need to, as a society, to see these people more. These people usually are invisible. But the truth is, artists always rely on them. There's always so many invisible people that make the art possible. And here was this incredible rebel, who at 16 started booking concerts and basically went against all of her parents' wishes and didn't want to become this like a German bourgeois Hausfrau that, her parents wanted her to be. And she was such an inspiration to hear that she produced this concert at 18 and that she fought with all of these men to make this happen. It was really, really inspiring.
So how was the process like? You met up with her, I presume, you interviewed her. Was she part of the scriptwriting process? Did she, for instance, say, no, it wasn't like that?
My producer, Sol Bondi, found her on a beach in Greece. And he said, Vera Brandes, we want to tell your story. And there was silence on the line for a few seconds, and then we heard... finally. So she was really open because she felt like for years she was waiting and nobody told this story. She gave me a lot of her time and we sat together for many, 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 many hours. She gave me all of her life story. And, down to the details of this dental clinic in the basement of her house and the shouting of the patients that would be heard upstairs, her relationship with her father, how he showed up at her 50th birthday party and gave this strange speech. Even the Express article where they called her a jazz bunny, we actually found it. It really all happened. The more she spoke, the more specific she became. And she gave me such a treasure trove of details that then all I had to do was just take it all in, know all this information, and just play it back into the script.
You live in the States, but it's also very much a film about Cologne. It's already in the title. So how did that come about? How did you research on the city?
Yeah, my favorite thing about making movies is that you immerse yourself in something, right? If you write a movie about a submarine, then you learn everything there is to know about submarines. And in this case, I immersed myself in the Cologne scene in the 70s, which was such a rich place with culture and music and politics and resistance movements and agitation of youth. It's West Germany. Kraftwerk is inventing electronic music. Kahn and Neu are doing really special thing in like psychedelic rock. Miles Davis is showing up to Berlin and he plays more rock than jazz. David Bowie and Iggy Pop and Lou Reed all find themselves into Germany. So, as someone who really cares about music and culture, for me, it was such a scene to explore. And then to hear all of this through this woman who was such a rebel. At 16, she would hang out at this jazz club in Cologne called Café Campi, where they would serve ice cream and have jazz shows. And she met Ronnie Scott and how she started producing shows. It was such a great world to learn about and to reproduce.
Absolutely. A lot of the films here at the festival kind of talk about different generations, I was really blown away how self-sufficient teenagers were in the 70s. I'm guessing that was also a concern for you, because I think we don't really see people in that age bracket be so, sure of themselves and so self-confident.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of Vera Brandeses in the world. You have to be a very special kind of person. I mean, at 16, she would start booking shows. She would sneak into the clinic at night and call clubs and book concerts and start making money. And then she had actually rented a different apartment, and she really lived a double life where she would show up at home in the mornings, but really like hang out with her friends and do work at this other apartment. She lived a really rebellious life, and it's such an inspiration to see. Of course, it was part of this wave of feminism of the 70s, and I think she was a leader in Cologne in that regard as well. We see in the film a big protest for abortion rights, for example, and she was one of the instigators of that.
How do you work together with your German producers to find Mala who portrays her so well?
So we cast a really wide net to look for the right actors. I told my casting director that there were no rules. I wanted to see everyone, unknown people from acting schools, established actors, and of course I had to immerse myself in the current German cinema and TV and see everyone. We did multiple rounds of tapes, and I gave different missions. I drove everyone just insane. But at the end, we had casting sessions. And when Mala Emde walked into a room, you just felt the air move. You feel like a great big animal is inside this room. It's like something wild. It's a frequency that you only feel in the presence of great stars. So it was a very kind of immediate decision the moment that I saw that, or I felt that. And I said, once I cast her, I said to Mala, this is your film. Just the same way the story is not Keith Jarrett's story, it's Vera Brandes' story. This film is your film, it's not mine. I will follow your lead. You're our leader, and you're my collaborator, and I just follow you, and you have complete freedom. Improvise, move. The only rule I gave her is that she could not stand still for 1 second, because that's the kind of character she was. And if you watch the film, you see that this woman is a ball of energy. It never stops. She just keeps going, and she improvises her way into this beautiful concert. I think this film is about two great improvisers. One is great at improvising on the piano. The other is great at improvising at life.
You just mentioned Keith Jarrett. It feels kind of bittersweet also to read your press notes that he doesn't even like the concert that much. So he's most famous for something he kind of feels a bit sad about. How was your approach to handling that, also with respect? You're not making him into a villain in any sense, of course, but you're also honoring that he's a very complicated person.
Absolutely. I think I understand his stance about the concert. I mean, imagine that you're a young person, and he was still young when he played this concert, and you play the concert, and then this is all people remember for you. And then from that point on, you play dozens and dozens of concerts, you release records, and by the way, some of them are better musically speaking than the Cologne concert, but everyone just keeps coming back to this one hit. It would drive me crazy. So I completely understand why for him, he doesn't want to celebrate this concert. He doesn't want to hear about it anymore. He's sick of it. That's fine. That is fine. However, he also shouldn't be getting the decision that this woman's story is not going to be told. And that was really important for me. I really tried to create a film that is a love song to this type of music, to him as an artist, to try and understand him and why he is the way he is. But it's her movie. It's her show. It's act of putting a spotlight on a woman who was invisible and who deserved credit. So when we heard that Keith doesn't want to be involved in this, I wanted to respect that. But I wasn't going to let go of the story.
Okay, it's very good that you didn't. I'm curious about your decision to break the fourth wall several times in the film.
It was important to me to write a film the way a musician plays a piece of music, meaning you don't really think too much, you improvise. So I just use all different types of cinematic tools without creating any system of rules. I wanted to just go. I didn't do any outlines, any beat sheets. I didn't have a plan. I just crank up music in my room and I wrote this film the way it came out of my hands. And so sometimes we break the fourth wall. Sometimes it's like documentary. Sometimes it's a mix of archival and real life. Sometimes it's unity of time and space. Sometimes we race through the years. There's a false start in the movie the same way that music is. I wanted it to feel always alive and surprising and have a really strong beat because, sure, it's about a jazz concert, but this movie is punk rock, and Vera Brandes is a punk rock character.
As a final question, what do you hope audiences will take away from this film?
I hope it inspires people to see how much someone can do if they just decide to do something. I hope it inspires young women and remind them that at any age, really, we are able to change the world. And I hope it opens up the world of music and art to artists, and because it's really also a story about what makes art great. What makes art great is not the perfect conditions. What makes art great is the problems, the obstructions, the broken pianos.
Thank you so much.
Of course.